You see, COVID-19 brought about different challenges. People out here just trying to make a living, and through any means necessary, we are trying. That coupled up together with the Ukrainian war and its difficult situations, but somehow people are making do with what they have. But now, the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence is an annual international campaign for the elimination of violence against women. This year's theme is Unite Activism to End Violence Against Women and Girls, and invites everyone to play their role in ending violence against women and girls, show support and solidarity to women's rights and activists, and to resist the rollback on women's rights. In studio with me to paint a picture on where we are and what we have to do to end the violence against women is Kungu, Partnership Manager, CFK Africa. And welcome to the show now. 16 Days of Activism started yesterday. Today is the second day. As we get into the topic of ending violence against women and girls, let's just start from your office. How many cases do you get, say, a day or a week?
So on average, being we are just one facility of the many within Kibera, first from that perspective, we would get maybe on average 2 to 3 cases a week. And also now this can be also for different stages. It could be either they're coming in for a health service, they want referral for legal services, or they are looking for some form of mental health service, especially psychosocial support. Now, nationally though, if for example you are to assess the data for the first 3 quarters of this year, 2022, children 0 to I would say 7 years, we had about 450 cases of sexual violence. The second highest was, I would say, 8 to about 14 years. They were about 1,300 cases. And women 18 to 49 were 3,100, I think 12 or 10. So that's the case of sexual violence. Now, nationally, about only 47% of cases of gender-based violence are ever reported. And mind you, the cases that are only ever reported is mostly physical violence, that's the beating, or sexual violence. So it could be either rape, just basically sexual violence. So those are the 2 that are primarily reported. Yet, gender-based violence has a broader array of forms of violence that women can go through. It can be physical, emotional, mental, sexual, economical, political. So there's various forms of gender-based violence that can be experienced. And generally, gender-based violence is any violence that you experience based off of your gender. And so it's an issue of inequalities. So yes, there's broad spectrum of cases that are reported, but you can imagine if only 47% of cases are ever reported. And for example, for the children under 80 years, we had about 400 cases. So we can assume if it was 100% reporting, that would have been almost 1,000. And that is only sexual violence. So what about physical, emotional, and all the other forms of violence that not only women and girls, but even children that are going through of all genders, yeah.
And now, where you sit as CFK Africa, these are issues that you deal with on a daily basis, and it is something that all stakeholders should come on board to ensure that there is sanity in the society. So let's talk about the law, let's talk about the government, let's talk about the police. I know the police started Polycare, where it is easier for women to get in and report their cases. Is Polycare working, and is the law really working in ensuring that there is equality in the society?
So Polycare is really a good policy, in effect, would really be helpful. But the problem herein is, for the officers that are in charge of those stations, you basically maybe will have maybe 2 to 3 officers, female officers trained in this police station. And with the nature of government and all positions, be it in the police, in medical, all, transfers are inevitable. Transfers are often random. So what happens is you had your 2-3 officers trained in this police station, then tomorrow they are transferred. So there is no one there left to take the reports. So the thing is, until also that aspect of the transfer is dealt with, then that also would not be solving the issue as it is. Number two, also, there's a lot of stigma around reporting. And also the fact that, sadly to say, people know that largely if you report, it almost means nothing. I will give an example of our own experience as an organization where we received such cases. And we had a case of a 5-year-old girl. She came to us, just had been violated. We took her for medical care because the first point of service that you ensure is health. So we take care of her health, had the rape kit administered, got all the documents that are needed from the facility, supported the parents to go all the way to the police station. The good thing is the mother even knew the perpetrator, so reported the perpetrator. There was clear evidence. The perpetrator was arrested within 2 to 3 days. By the end of the week, one of our community health workers, so you have a lot of CHVs, and they come back to the office and they're like, oh, we saw him. And you're like, we left him at the police station, so how is he outside? We've not been called to court, we've not been told anything about a case. And you realize what happens is when, as long as you have a deep enough pocket, as long as you know the right people, you will go to the police station, you'll find a way to have internal agreements and be sent back. And also now another thing also is largely any form of gender-based violence, especially that is among family, tends to be normalized. And then it's considered a family issue. So most of the time, if you go to most police stations, you'll be asked, oh, that's a household issue. In Kiswahili ni mambo ya nyumbani. So you go discuss at home. And there are things that are not supposed to be a discussion. If someone has been raped, if someone is getting physically abused, that is a legal issue. It should not be addressed at the household. So when you're constantly sent home, it becomes normalized. So you know that if I'm wronged, then you tell someone in the family, oh, someone touched my child, someone beat me. And especially even in marriage, especially intimate partner violence, that's even the least reported. Because how? Women are already socialized to feel like they are property. You're owned by this man. So how are you reporting against your own husband? So that, all that cases is now where you realize now the police don't have a very major role. So all these kangaroo courts, all this household issue addressing of gender-based violence results in us now, number one, not dealing with the real issue because no action is taken, and then perpetrators are not held accountable. So in essence, what you're doing is you're enabling them to continue. And once they're done with this person, they will continuously recruit more victims from the household. And then number two, also how that affects us is in terms of data. There is no data to really show the extremity of gender-based violence. So if there's a lot of underreporting, it's very easy for it to be swept under the rug and you think like, oh, it's not really happening. It's not that bad. But in essence, because nobody is reporting. And you said something about issues of how stakeholders need to be involved. So you can imagine in the minimum PAC service for gender-based violence, and this is the minimum services anyone who undergoes gender-based violence should receive. So you're supposed to get health services, legal services, psychosocial services, maybe some economic or any other support service that might be needed. Now, when you look at that, it's all different stakeholders. So health, the Ministry of Health is dealing with it. Psychosocial, also Ministry of Health, a different department holds it. Legal, the police are holding that data. The Ministry of Gender also is holding their own data. The children's departments, they are also holding their own data. And what you realize is they never talk to each other. So everyone is dealing with the problem alone. Everyone is storing their data alone. While in essence, if we had all this collective effort, so yes, we are supporting survivors collectively, but are we also collectively using that data? Are the laws also collectively implemented? Because you realize one policy falls under the children's department, another policy falls under the police. While it should be a collective effort. So it should be something that we are all working towards in addressing this issue.
Now let's big sentiments, very huge sentiments you're sharing on what we need to do in order to end this vice. But let's just take a short commercial break, and when we come back, let's just have a conversation on how then we can have this conversation as all stakeholders in ensuring that our women and girls enjoy the rights that they deserve to enjoy. My name is Dennis Asset. I'll see you in a few.